Hello friends, I hope everyone is good. In this video we will talk about meningitis. First of all, we will see what is meningitis and what is its definition. Let's first of all talk about the definition of the meningitis. Now, meningitis is combination of the two words. One is meninges and one is itis. So friends, whenever you see a word itis anywhere, it literally means inflammation. So itis is inflammation. And what is the meaning of the meninges? So let's draw the structure of brain here. Okay, this is brain. Let me make it a little better. This is brain. Outside of the brain, we have this bone on the very top of our head, which we call the skull or the cranium. This is skull or cranium. Underneath the skull or cranium and outside of the brain matter or the meninges. The meninges are the coverings of the brain. So the outermost covering is known as the dura mater or dura mater. This one is known as this is a tough membrane, dura mater, and some people call it dura mater. Dura mean tough and mater mean mother, tough mother. Whenever someone, first of all, they opened up the skull and it was very difficult to peel it off because it is such a tough structure. So dura mean tough, mater mean mother. So dura mater is the outermost layer of the brain, which we call the meninges, and it lies just under the cranium. Now the innermost membrane is known as, if I make a diagram here, this innermost membrane which is adherent to the brain tissue is known as the pia mater or pia mater. This is called pia mater or pia mater. And outside of the pia mater is another membrane which we call the arachnoid mater or arachnoid mater. This one is the arachnoid mater or arachnoid mater. Arachnoid mater. So innermost is pia mater, which we cannot peel off from the brain because it is tightly adherent. Outside of it is the arachnoid mater, and between the pia mater and the arachnoid mater is a space which we call the subarachnoid space, and this is the very space where there is a CSF or central spinal fluid and blood vessels which are encircling the brain. So this is the subarachnoid space between arachnoid and the pia mater. Outside of the arachnoid mater is the dura mater, which is a very tough. That is known as dura mater, and combined arachnoid mater and the pia mater are known as the leptomeninges because they are very soft and delicate membranes. Leptomeninges. So this is the difference, that leptomeninges comprises of arachnoid and pia mater because these are very delicate membranes, and dura mater is the outermost very tough layer. The infection or inflammation of these coverings of the brain is known as the meningitis, And generally, whenever we are seeing that meningitis, it refers to the inflammation of the arachnoid and the pia mater, especially in the space between the arachnoid and pia mater, which is the subarachnoid space. So this is the definition of the meningitis. Meningitis is a very important diagnosis. After definition, let's see what are the causative agents of the meningitis. It can be bacteria, it can be viruses, it can be fungal, it can be parasitic, it can be malignant or cancerous. So if we talk about the etiology or causes of the brain meningitis are the inflammation of the brain covering. It can be bacterial, and out of bacterial causes, the most important is the gram-negative diplococci, which we call the Neisseria meningitidis. This is the most important, one of the most important reason of the bacterial reason of the meningitis. Other one is the Streptococcus pneumoniae or group B streptococci. Another can be Haemophilus influenzae. Another can be Listeria monocytogenes, especially in old and very young patients. This is the bacterial cause of the meningitis. Now, what can be the viral causes? Most important viral causes of the meningitis, these are herpes simplex virus, especially in young patients who are living in hostels and dormitories. It can be Coxsackie virus A and B. It can be mumps. It can be measles. So these are different causes of the meningitis. Other than bacteria and viral, it can be tuberculosis, Mycobacterium tuberculosis, and it can be some site of parasitic like toxoplasmosis. It can be trauma to the brain, which can help the entry of the bacteria and the viruses, especially the bacteria. And it can be because of the malignancy. For example, some leukemia patient may develop meningitis. So these are main causes of the meningitis. What are the clinical manifestation of the meningitis? Let's talk about the clinical manifestation or clinical features. All those patients who are suffering from the meningitis, they give the history of, majority of them give the history of fever, especially if it turns out to be a bacterial meningitis, because the viral meningitis can present with fever or cannot present with fever. Other than fever, patient can have pain in the neck, or neck stiffness, which we also call meningismus. People also give history of or complaint of altered state of consciousness or very sleepy. What is altered state of consciousness? Normally in medical field we follow the concept of knowing about the Glasgow Coma Scale. This is assessment of the conscious level of any person. It comprises of the three limbs. These are the how the patient is obeying the commands, how the patient is verbally communicating with the doctor or the person who's assessing the patient, and what is the eye response of the patient. The GCS of the dead body is 3/15 and the GCS of a normal person is 15/15. Any person who has got a Glasgow Coma Scale less than 9 is put in the serious category. So altered state of consciousness is mostly when the patient is not able to recognize, patient is not quite coherent in the speech. So if someone sleeps and you are trying to wake him or her up, there will be a difficulty in waking her or him up. So their sensorium is altered. Our patient is sleepy. There can be seizures, especially in the viral meningitis, seizure or fits. Patient may have nausea, may have vomiting, patient may have photophobia or irritability because of lights, or they have some distress as a result of lights in the eyes. So these are some of the clinical features with which these patient may present. And if patient is having bacterial meningitis because of the Neisseria meningitis or meningococcemia, then these patients have typical skin rash. Meningitis diagnosis is clinical. So how we diagnose it? Mainly it's a clinical diagnosis. Secondly, we try to rule out the presence of the causative agent and its specific characteristics in the CSF or cerebrospinal fluid, which is present in the spinal canal and in the ventricular system of the brain, because subarachnoid space is the space where CSF moves around. So whenever there is inflammation of the meninges, this CSF will contain some WBCs, some proteins, glucose characteristics which are specific for these causative agents. But before doing, you go for the lumbar puncture, which is a test to get or remove CSF for examination. You need to do the fundoscopy or ophthalmoscopy. Fundoscopy, because there may be some other reason that this patient is having altered state of consciousness and these symptoms. So first you need to rule out if patient is having increased intracranial pressure because of either meningitis or any other reason. If a patient has got a increased intracranial pressure on fundoscopy, then you will have to hold LP or lumbar puncture and you will go for CT or MRI to rule out any mass or any space occupying lesion. But if on fundoscopy intracranial pressure is not raised, then you will go for the lumbar puncture analysis of the CSF. Why it is important? Because when you do the CSF, if a patient is having bacterial meningitis, you will see neutrophils in the CSF. It will be turbid in color or it will be milky in color, because the normal or the viral meningitis, it gives you a CSF which is clear. And in the bacterial meningitis, there will be high protein and low glucose. But if it is viral meningitis, the color of the CSF will be white. Chances are it will be white. Lymphocytes will be raised. Protein may be normal or may be slightly raised. And glucose may be normal or may be slightly decreased. But in case of the tuberculous meningitis, CSF will be turbid. It can be normal color, but it will be turbid because of very high concentration of the protein, low glucose, and lymphocytes will be high. So this is why you need to get CSF, and sometime for viral pathology of the meningitis, you need to do the PCR of the CSF to identify the causative agent, which is virus here. And sometime you are to do India ink examination to look for the toxoplasma. After you have done, this is the line of action in order to diagnose the case, but your treatment should not be delayed because of all of these diagnostic tests. The only diagnostic test which you need to do promptly, even before starting the treatment, you will do the blood culture. Send the blood culture immediately to rule out any bacteremia or septicemia. So along with these diagnostic modalities, you need to start treatment of the meningitis. So what is the treatment of the meningitis? Treatment of the meningitis, if the patient has got altered sensorium and you suspect that there may be increased intracranial pressure because of the meningitis, then you need to give those medication which can decrease the edema of the brain, like intravenous mannitol. It is an osmotic diuretic. It will help decrease the raised intracranial pressure. Secondly, you need to give steroids. Why you need to give steroids? For at least 4 to 5 initial days, because as a result of the bacterial or tuberculous meningitis, when the antibiotics they kill or anti-tuberculous they kill the causative agent, there will be release of the endotoxin. And if you do not give the steroid, then the patient's condition will deteriorate rather than improving. So you need to start steroid a little before the start of the antibiotics or anti-tuberculous in order to take care of the endotoxin which are released from the dying pathogens. If you suspect or you do not have the diagnosis in hand regarding the causative agent, which we don't have most of the time in the beginning, you need to give antibiotics which cover a lot of bugs, bacteria. Which antibiotic are important? The most important will be in normal adults. Normal mean in adults less than 50 and more than like certain months, you need to give ceftriaxone, which is a third generation cephalosporin. Ceftriaxone, you start ceftriaxone, and you also start vancomycin along with ceftriaxone. Both of these are vancomycin. Both of these are broad spectrum antibiotic. You will wait for the culture report, then you may scale down your antibiotics according to the reports. But before that, you need to give those antibiotics which broadly cover the bacteria. And if someone is more than 50 years of age or less than 1 year, you need to also cover Listeria monocytogenes. And in order to cover Listeria monocytogenes, you need to add ampicillin. So you will also add ampicillin to cover Listeria monocytogenes, which happens in immunocompromised patient, very old and very young patients. So this is how you try to cover the bacterial cause of the meningitis. But if you think the cause may be the viral meningitis, it settles down most of the time all by itself. But if you think herpes simplex can be a reason of the viral meningitis, then you will start acyclovir. Acyclovir is an antiviral which you give in order to cover acyclovir. So acyclovir given if you suspect that patient may be having herpes simplex virus as a causative agent of the viral meningitis. So these are some basics thing about meningitis, that it is inflammation of the meninges, and meninges are 3 in number. They are covering the brain surface. The innermost is the pia mater. Above the pia mater lies the arachnoid mater. Both of these they combine to make the leptomeninges because these are very delicate and soft membranes. And whenever generally we say that someone is suffering from meningitis, we are referring to the leptomeningeal involvement. There is a space between the arachnoid and the pia mater, which we call the subarachnoid space, which contains CSF and also blood vessels. And this is the potential space where these inflammatory processes they take place. And outermost layer is the dura mater, which is very tough layer, and just above it lies the cranium or part of the skull which covers our heads. So the causative agent can be bacterial, viral, fungal, tuberculous and parasitic. How these patients present? They come with fever, pain in the neck, altered state of consciousness, seizures, nausea, vomiting, photophobia and skin rash. But there is a triad that whenever someone comes with a fever is not in his or her senses and there is a neck in the pain, do suspect that patient might have meningitis. You can diagnose it based on the clinical features, but other than that, do the fundoscopy to rule out the increased intracranial pressure. And if it is an increased intracranial pressure there, you will have to go for CT or MRI to rule out the space occupying lesion. And if there is no raised intracranial pressure, do the lumbar puncture, which is inserting a needle in the L4, L5 most of the time, lumbar 4 and 5 vertebra, to access the subarachnoid space of the underneath the dura. Subarachnoid space or spinal canal, where you can take out some CSF for the chemical analysis. Why it is important to go for the chemical analysis? Because this way you can know whether this is bacterial, viral, tuberculous, and you can also do some PCR testing and culture sensitivity on the CSF. Even before the start of any treatment, you need to take out blood culture, but rest of the treatment can be done along with the treatment or after the treatment. This is very important to start the treatment very promptly, because that will make a huge difference. If you suspect the patient has got high ICP, give osmotic diuretic, which is mannitol. Steroid are started if you suspect it can be either bacterial or tuberculous, in order to take care of the adenotoxin which are released as a result of death of the pathogen. Antibiotics in adults, you need to take care of the gram positive and gram negative. Both third generation ceftriaxone or cefotaxime is combined with vancomycin. If person is 50 years plus and are very young in age, then you need to take care of the Listeria monocytogenes with the help of the ampicillin. So these are some basic facts about the meningitis. I haven't touched encephalitis, I haven't touched cerebritis, I haven't touched cerebral abscess. These are different topics. So I hope it gives you some idea about the viral meningitis. I'll keep on making videos on different topics, and if you think it can help someone else, please share this video. And if the video is good, please press the like button. Do subscribe the channel if you haven't done it yet. And thank you so much for watching this video. Stay blessed.